In episode 1, I introduced you to the F3XX and our jumping off point for building our very own version of that bike, my 2015 MV Agusta F3 800. We asked her to get naked, and naked she is. And in this episode, we're going to start making her lighter, sexier. But not before we ask her to take off a few more bits. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel in episode 2 of our MV Agusta F3XX bike build. I know I mentioned in episode 1 that we are going to start installing some goodies in episode 2 here today, and we're going to start doing that. However, this bike can still get a little bit more naked. There's still a few more bits and bobs and pieces on her that we need to take off before we can start installing stuff. So let's talk about that for a quick second. So in episode 1, I mentioned that we were going to be removing our rear subframe and our front upper fairing stay so that we can install our lighter race versions of those, and we are going to do that. However, we still need to remove the front and rear fenders along with the entire exhaust system headers back so that we can start prepping that as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, so removing of the subframe really isn't all that difficult. There are 4 bolts, and you just need to disconnect anything that's connected to it. Super simple, so I figured this was a good time to talk about the F3XX. I'll put the specs up on the screen here, and we can go through some of these if we have time, but quick history, this bike was introduced by MV Reparto Corsa, the racing division of MV Agusta, in the 2018-2019 timeframe. Its calling card is it's super light with Superbike horsepower. So 320 pounds dry, 343 pounds wet, 160 horse with 65 foot-pounds of torque. Now, in a world of 200 plus horsepower leader bikes, that's not a big deal. However, 160 horse is nothing to sneeze at, and 343 pounds wet is literally a featherweight. To put this into perspective, this bike is lighter than both recent offerings from Aprilia, so the RS 660 and the new RS 457. It's lighter than a Ninja 400. It's lighter than a Yamaha R3. And it's even lighter than both featherweights offered by KTM, so the RC 390 and the RC 250. Now, for the RC 250, we're talking dry weight here. Yeah, you guys can see the specs there. Phenomenal bike. I think it's drop dead gorgeous. I really believe that this is the best looking fully faired sport bike man has ever made. Now, I'll say that with a caveat. I dislike everything with wings. In my opinion, motorcycles shouldn't have wings. We need to remove the rear sets just to get them out of the way, primarily on the other side, but I'm going to take this side off anyway. And then we also need to remove the side stand because actually there's a connecting bolt to the exhaust on the back side. So let's remove the rear sets. Now it's time to tackle the headers. All right, guys, so we're up front at the bike. We're just about ready to remove the headers, and we need to make some space behind the radiator. So therefore, we need to disconnect this lower radiator hose from this point, which means we are going to need a bucket because we're going to lose some coolant. And we need to disconnect this cooler hose. The other one should be okay. We may need to disconnect this one in here. I'm not sure, but the idea is to disconnect the hoses and leave everything else connected and pivot the bottom of the radiator forward like so. It will certainly be easier if we just remove the radiator and the lower oil cooler altogether, but I'm trying to avoid doing that. So let's get going. Now, we need to head on over the other side and get the other two. All right, guys, so now that the exhaust is completely off, we can move on to removing the front and rear fenders along with the upper fairing stay. But before we do that, I wanted to do a quick weight comparison of the stock stainless steel headers and the titanium headers that we're going to put on the bike. So here is the stainless steel header that we just took off, and I told you it's a modified stock exhaust so that you can see the weld marks here and here. So the previous owner cut a section out so that they can weld in a wideband O2 bung there. The stock O2 location is here, and then we have a wideband over here on the left side. And you can see that the flapper valve, exhaust flapper valve, has been removed, and again, the baffling, that's all in here. So this is a very free-flowing manifold, but it weighs a ton. So get my scale here. It's set to pounds, right there. So you can see what we are at, about just over 6 pounds. So now let's take a look at the titanium header. Oh my God, this thing is ridiculously light. So this is the titanium header that I got from Evolution Bike. You can see here, it's from Evolution Bike, and you can also see that it's made by Sill Motor. This will mount up to any system that uses the stock mounting locations and sides. So let's weigh this puppy. So I'll hang it right here off of one of the header mounting holes. And you can see there, 2.43 pounds. That's ridiculous, ridiculously lightweight. So you can see that it has an attachment point for the exhaust flapper valve and the brackets and so forth. But if you look down in there, there's no valve in there whatsoever. So I'm not sure why they added this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grind this off. That way it's not rattling around and you hear this while you're riding the bike, which would drive me crazy. But there is a O2 sensor location here, but it's not a wideband O2, so I may have this drilled and welded for a wideband at some point, but not right now. So we're not going to throw this on today. Maybe in the next episode or two. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to show it to you guys. All right, so having said that, let's lower the bike and we'll get to, actually, we won't lower the bike yet. We'll just remove the fenders. All right, fenders off. So the fairing stay comes off really simple. There are basically 2 bolts in here, one in the bottom, one in the top here, and there are some things that either on your street bike that are either zip tied or screwed to it. Mine's a track bike, so they're zip tied. Also, what I have different is the coolant overflow tank is mounted to the front. I'm going to try to retain the location of this because it's easy to get to. Normally, it sits under or in between the airbox and the frame, right in this area. And it's really difficult to get to. You got to remove the tank to get to the cap. I may have to put it back in there if I can't figure out a mounting to our new moto holders upper fairing stay. But let's get this one off. Lift this out like so and disconnect the electrical connector like that. Out she is. I'm not going to disconnect there's still fluid in there. I'm not going to disconnect the coolant hoses just yet. I'm going to leave them for the time being, but let's just finish removing the upper fairing stay. Everything's loose now, so if we just remove these two bolts over here, everything will pop off. Okay. Top bolt out. Upper fairing stay off. This is fairly heavy too for, I believe this is an aluminum piece. Yeah, it's not magnetic, so it feels like it's aluminum, but it also feels heavy. So let's weigh it. Let's see. Put that on there. Let me, just over 2.8 pounds. In comparison, this is our moto holders, upper fairing stay, so it'll mount something like that. And this thing, a tad over a pound, as you can see there. All right, guys, so it is the next day. Off camera, I figured out a way to keep the coolant overflow tank in its current location. I got a couple of these clips here. They come in a bunch of different sizes. This is a 1/2 inch because the bars on the new upper fairing stay are 1/2 inch. So it's a metal clip with a rubber covering. We're going to wrap those around the bar and then just tie them together. And it seems like it's going to work out pretty well. So let me mount the camera on the stand and then we'll start with the upper fairing stay before moving to the subframe. Before we start the install, we have to swap over a few parts off of our stock OE upper fairing stay. So there are these 3 grommets, 1, 2, 3. We have to pull those off and swap them over. So let's do that real quick. They just pop right out. Simple stuff. And then we need to transfer them to our new fairing stay here, here, and here. So, okay, grommets installed. Pop these clips on here like that. Here, that. Okay. Okay, time to move on to the rear subframe. But first, we got to do a weight comparison. Grab my scale. We will turn this on. Damn, I need to replace the battery already. All right, anyway. Hook this up like so. We'll hang it, hang it, hang it, hang it, hang it. 9.81 pounds. Whew. She's a porker. Let's check our new Moto Holders lightweight race frame. Wait, let me zero this out. Yeah, as you can see, it's zeroed. We will hang it, hang it, hang it, hang it, hang it, hang it. 2.73 pounds. And we'll keep track of all of these things. We'll continue to weigh the parts that we're putting on the bike and compare them against the parts we're taking off so that we'll have an idea at the end of this how much weight we actually saved. We still won't know how much the bike weighs. If you guys know of anybody with scales in the Phoenix Valley area that would let me borrow the scales for 30 minutes to an hour or so to weigh the bike once we're finished, please hit me up either in the comment section of this video or esbklife@gmail.com. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Let's get this thing installed. And now I think we just have to reroute the wires and also reinstall our rectifier. I'll get the rectifier now because that's super simple. It always helps to bag these things with the hardware so you know exactly what is what and what goes with what. I may need to get longer screws because that's barely touching. All right. All right, I found some new bolts. One's a little bit rusty, but it should be okay. They're a little bit longer. Just going to put a little blue Loctite, or thread locker, I should say. One and then the other. Just a quick call out on this. I didn't mention it while I was doing the disassembly or the stripping of the bike, but this is my I2M ABS delete module for the F3. So you can see it says MV F3 right there. And this is the little guy. I want to pop this off real quick because we didn't weigh it. And you're like, why am I weighing this? Because it's actually this little diminutive guy. This is the ABS pump. It was still on the bike when I picked it up, although it was being bypassed. So there was an error on the dash. It was driving me crazy. It didn't impact the bike or any at all, but it was driving me crazy. But this little guy, I think weighs less than a pound. And then obviously we have this that probably weighs just a few grams, but let's check it out because we want to keep track of everything that we're weighing. This needs to be on a flat surface. All right, so we will let that zero out. All right, we zeroed out. You can see that we are pounds and ounces. So we will weigh our ABS unit. 15.1 ounces, not even a full pound. Pretty close, but just under a pound. And then this diminutive guy, 0.9 ounces. So we'll start to tally that up. So we're not saving a huge ton of weight, but this is, but you can see how easily this just pops on and off. There is a lever here with a push down stopper, I guess. So basically you just line it up like that, and you apply a little pressure, lift up, and it'll start to slide in, and then the lever will lock it in place. That's it. Then you just need to find some place to zip tie this so that it won't flop around. That's it. Well, I think that's it for episode 2, guys. I'll keep this short and sweet. You guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it if you didn't. Until next time, guys, take care.